went to Anambra State for gubernatorial campaign. I won't finish that campaign. We went to somebody's house for entertainment. So I just sat down. Come and see the best of drinks. Crystal, this. So I called him. I said, sir, you're providing crystal champagne here. But every day you tell people that you wear only one shoe. You carry only bag, only you. But look at champagne here. Not just champagne, crystal. Why do we deceive Nigerians? Why can't we tell ourselves the simple truth? What you preach is not what you practice.
One thing with people like Wike and many Nigerian politicians is that they don't know how to separate public life from private life. That's what made Mr. P2B to stand out. That's what made him to be very different from other politicians in the country. While Mr. P2B was speaking about frugality, he has always maintained that public money must be used for public purpose. The emphasis of Mr. Peter Obi not spending money on expensive wine was why he was in government. Peter Obi was just being modest because he is in charge of public fund. It doesn't mean that Peter Obi does not have the money to buy expensive wine. He can afford to do that, but not while he's in government. We are talking about someone that ever since the election was ended has gone around the country donating his personal money to key institutions like schools and hospitals in the tune of 1 billion naira. Peter Obi is a rich man, even richer than Wike. But I understand what Wike is trying to do. Wike is trying to divert attention from what Mr. Peter Obi asked him to do. Peter Obi has criticized the staggering 39 billion spent on renovating the Abuja International Conference Center, now renamed the Bola Ahmed Tinubu International Conference Center. Peter Obi argued that such an enormous sum was a misplaced priority when critical sectors like education, healthcare, and infrastructure are in a dire strait. Wike's attempt to paint Obi as a hypocrite for enjoying a glass of wine misses the mark entirely. Obi is a successful businessman and he can afford luxuries like champagne with his own money, earned through decades of private enterprise, through decades of hard work. The real issue isn't Obi's lifestyle, it's the reckless spending of public funds by Wike and President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who seem more focused on flashy projects than addressing Nigerians' pressing needs. Nigerians deserve accountability from their leaders, and it is time Wike and Tinubu explain why their spending priorities are leaving the masses behind, rather than throwing a disparaging attack on the personality of Mr. Peter Obi. Let's look at the champagne saga. Wike's attempt to shame Peter Obi for serving crystal champagne during a private visit is a weak distraction. Peter Obi isn't a public office holder dipping into government coffers to fund his lifestyle. Before entering politics, Obi built a fortune through legitimate business ventures. He's a well-known entrepreneur with investment in banking, real estate, and trading. Peter Obi holds importation license for wines and spirits across Nigeria and part of Africa. Peter Obi has been chairman of 4 banks in Nigeria. Not only is Peter Obi a successful trader, he is equally a successful corporate executive. Peter Obi's wealth comes from his private endeavors, not taxpayer money. If he chooses to serve an expensive bottle of champagne at his home, that is his prerogative as a private citizen who earned his money through hard work. Contrast this with Wike's position as a former governor and FCT minister. Every naira he spends on projects like the Abuja Conference Centers comes from public funds, money that belongs to Nigerians. Obi criticism wasn't about denying Nigerian modern facilities. It was about questioning why 39 billion was poured into a single renovation project, why schools lack basic furniture, hospitals lack medicine, and roads remain death traps. Wike's personal attack on Obi dodges the core issue. Public office holders must be accountable for how they spend the people's money. Obi's champagne doesn't undermine his argument. It highlights the difference between private wealth and public responsibility. Wike's response to Peter Obi is shambolic. Instead of providing a detailed breakdown of the 39 billion spent on a conference center, he resorted to name calling. Accusing Obi of deceiving Nigerians, Wike boasted that the center was completely overhauled, with everything replaced except the building's frame, and claimed it's non-book until 2027, proving its value. He even argued that Nigeria, as the giant of Africa, needs world-class facilities to reflect its status. But these claims raise more questions than answers. Who is booking the center? Are these events generating enough revenue to justify the cost? And why prioritize a conference center over equipping hospitals or fixing crumbling schools? Wike's dismissal of critics as lacking good tests and his insistence that the centers reflect President Tinubu's high standards mark of arrogance. Nigerians aren't asking for good tests. They are asking for leaders who prioritize their survival. The 39 billion could have rebuilt hundreds of schools, provided clean waters to communities, or upgraded hospitals where patients sleep on floors. Wike owes Nigerians transparency, a clear breakdown of how every kobo was spent, why the cost ballooned to such a figure, and how these projects benefit the average Nigerian. Personal attacks on Peter Obi won't silence these questions. They only make Wike look evasive. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, under whose administration Wike operates, must also be held accountable. Since taking office, Tinubu has promised economic restoration, job creation, and improved living standard. His 2025 budget, pegged at 54.99 trillion naira, was marketed as a blueprint for progress, with pledges to boost agriculture, healthcare, and social welfare. Yet, more than 2 years into his presidency, Nigerians are still waiting to feel the impact of these promises. Inflation is at a record high, with food prices soaring beyond the reach of ordinary families. Unemployment remains a crisis, with millions of youth struggling to find work. Power outages persist, and insecurity, banditry, kidnapping, and insurgency continues to plague the nation. There is a reason why Bola Ahmed Tinubu's so-called investment isn't translating into tangible relief for Nigerians. Number one is, there is a clear issue of misplaced priorities. The 39 billion conference center renovation is just one example. Few months into Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration, 29 billion was spent on renovating the vice president's residence. A whopping 90 billion naira was spent on subsidizing Hajj. An SUV worth 160 million was purchased for each of the National Assembly members. 5 billion was used to purchase a presidential yacht for the president. $150 million was used to purchase a presidential jet for the president. All of this done at a time when millions can't afford basic meals. Spending such sums on luxuries feels like a slap in the face of Nigerians. This project may boost Nigerians' image among the elites, but they do little for the trader in Oshodi, the farmer in Sokoto, or the teacher in Enugu struggling to survive. Secondly, there is a lack of transparency in how funds are allocated and spent. Nigerians hear about trillion naira budget and massive investment, but there is little clarity on where the money goes. For instance, Tinubu's administration has touched investment in agriculture, yet farmers still lack access to affordable fertilizers, seedlings, and credit. The promised social welfare programs like cash transfer are either poorly implemented or mired in allegation of corruption. Without clear public reporting on how funds are used, Nigerians are left wondering if the money is reaching the intended project or being siphoned off. Thirdly, the government economic policies like the removal of fuel subsidies and the floating of the naira have hit Nigerians' heart. While these reforms were sold as necessary for long-term growth, they have driven up the cost of living without immediate relief measures. Tinubu's administration has failed to cushion the impact of these policies with robust social safety net or targeted subsidies for the poorest citizens. As a result, the promised benefit of these reforms remain invisible to most Nigerians, who are grappling with higher fuel prices, skyrocketing transport costs, and unaffordable food. Wike and Bola Ahmed Tinubu must understand that public office is a trust, not a personal fiefdom. Every naira they spend belongs to Nigerians, and they have a duty to use it responsibly. Obi's call for transparency isn't about playing to the gallery. It's about demanding that leaders prioritize the need of the people over vanity projects. For example, Peter Obi recently donated 6 million and computers to schools in Chibok, emphasizing that investing in education yields far greater returns than renovating conference centers. If Mr. Peter Obi can do that much for a school in Chibok with 6 million naira, imagine how much 20 billion out of that 39 billion would have done to schools in Nigeria. Accountability means answering tough questions. Wike must explain why the conference center requires 39 billion and how it benefits ordinary Nigerians. Tinubu must clarify why his administration investments, billions poured into infrastructure, agriculture and welfare, aren't improving lives. Nigerians deserve detailed budget, regular progress reports, and evidence that their money is being spent wisely. If the conference center is truly booked until 2027, as Wike claims, who is using it? Are these events generating revenue to offset the cost, or are they just elite gatherings funded by taxpayers? Similarly, Tinubu must show how his 54.99 trillion naira budget will deliver measurable results, not just promises. Peter Obi's stance resonates because it reflects the frustration of millions of Nigerians. While Wike and Tinubu defend their spending as necessary for national pride, ordinary citizens are battling hunger, insecurity, and crumbling infrastructure. Peter Obi isn't saying leaders can't enjoy nice things with their own money. He is saying they shouldn't waste public funds on projects that don't serve the masses. His wealth, earned through private enterprise, strengthens his argument. He is a proof that you can live well without touching public money, a lesson Wike and Tinubu seem unwilling to learn. There is a huge contrast between Mr. Peter Obi and Nyesom Wike. Peter Obi uses his personal fund to support schools and communities like his Chibok donation, while Wike and Tinubu spend billions of public funds on projects that prioritize image over impact. Nigerians aren't fooled by Wike's attack or Tinubu promises. They want leaders who spend responsibly, focusing on education, healthcare, jobs and security, not conference centers and luxury homes. Wike and Tinubu must step up, provide answers, and show that they are working for the people, not just themselves. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video.